Hello everyone, welcome to this channel and to this video. So in today's video we are going to take a look at the SOC level 1 path on the tryhackme website. So this path basically has 7 different modules. So we'll be covering each of those in this series. In today's video we are going to cover the cyber defense frameworks, which is the first one, which also has 6 modules inside it. So basically this will be a walkthrough of all the questions and tasks and challenges. We'll be performing the walkthrough of it, and we'll be reading some of the basics that are required as and when required. Okay, so what is SOC level 1? So basically we'll just go through the basic summary of what this course is all about. In this junior security analyst role, you will be a triage specialist. You will spend a significant portion of your time triaging and monitoring the event logs and alerts. The responsibilities of a junior security analyst or a tier 1 SOC analyst include the following: monitor and investigate alerts, configure and manage security tools, develop and implement IDS signatures, escalate the security incidents to the tier 2 and team lead if needed. Okay, so and they have also given some prerequisites that we can do for a smooth experience with this course. So with that, we'll just move on to the first part, which is the junior security analyst intro. So here it's just the basic of what we just read: the responsibilities of a junior security analyst, tier 1 SOC analyst, and required qualifications, desired certifications, and they have given us an overview of how the SOC 3-tier model works. So you can read through this, and the first question that they have asked here is, what will be your role as a junior security analyst? The answer to that is triage specialist. Next task is this, again, security operations center. So what exactly is SOC? So they have given the definition of what the SOC is and how it works, so you can read through this. Here no answer is needed, so we'll just move on to the third task. Here we'll learn about a day in a life of a junior security analyst. So to understand the job responsibilities of a junior security analyst, let us first show you what a day in the life of a junior security analyst looks like. So again, after reading through this, we'll come here on the question answers part. So again, click on the green view site button in the task to open the static site lab. So they are asking us to open this static site lab, so we'll be opening it. Alright, so there are some instructions, so we'll be solving this static site now. Inspect the alerts in your SIEM dashboard, find the malicious IP address and alerts and make a note of it, and then click on alert to proceed. Okay, so these are the different things, different logs that are present here. Okay, and then click on the alert to proceed. So this is unauthorized connection attempt. I think this is the one we are supposed to click. Okay, check the IP address. So let's check that IP address. The IP address was 221.181.185.159. Let's click on submit. Yes, so this IP scanner is showing that this is a malicious IP address. It's originating from here, and the city is this, and it is giving the different information about it. So there are many open source databases out there like Abuse IPDB, Cisco Talos Intelligence, where you can perform a reputation and location check for the IP addresses. Okay, so you can read this information. We'll click on next and move ahead. So we shouldn't worry too much if it was a failed authentication attempt, but you probably noticed a successful authentication attempt from the malicious IP address. Let's declare a small incident event and escalate it. So we have to choose to whom we would escalate the event. So we have seen previously, whenever there is a task that needs to be escalated, we will escalate it either to the tier 2 team or the team lead. So team lead here is Will Griffin, so we will escalate it to Will Griffin. Okay, so now you have got the permission to block the malicious IP address, and now you can proceed to implement the block rule. Block the malicious IP address on the firewall and find out what message they left for you. Okay, so we'll block that malicious IP address by entering that IP address once again, 221.181.185.159. We'll click on block IP address, and this is the flag that we are supposed to copy and paste it here in the last question. Okay, so we'll just go through the questions quickly. What was the malicious IP address in the alerts? The IP address is 221.181.185.159. To whom did you escalate the event associated with the malicious IP address? So we escalated to Will Griffin, who was the team lead. After blocking the malicious IP address on the firewall, what message did the malicious actor leave for you? So this flag which we just got, we are supposed to paste it here and click on done. Okay, so that is the end of this first module, which was the junior security analyst intro. Now we will move on to the next one, which is this pyramid of pain. So this pyramid of pain has 10 different tasks inside it. So we'll start with the introduction first. So this is the pyramid of pain. This is the diagram for the pyramid of pain. So this well-renowned concept is being applied to cybersecurity solutions like Cisco Security, Sentinel-1, SOC Radar to improve the effectiveness of CTI, threat hunting and incident response exercises. Okay, so no answer is needed here. We'll move on to the hash values. So again, you can read everything about hash value, what hash value is exactly, and I'll suggest you to read all these different resources that they have given. They are very informative, and it is very important to go through all of this so that we understand the concept better. So a hash value is the result of a hashing algorithm. Then they have given some of the types of hashing algorithms, and they have also shared some tools, some important tools that we will be using: VirusTotal and MetaDefender Cloud. So these are some of the important tools that are used. So provide the ransomware name for the hash. This is the hash that they have given using the open source lookup tools. So we'll use this MetaDefender tool to check the name of this hash. Okay, let's paste it here and let's wait for it. And the name is Conti. Right, so we'll come here and we'll answer it as Conti and click on done. Okay, so now we'll move on to the next task, which is task 3, which is the IP addresses. So you may have learned the importance of an IP address from what is networking room. The importance of IP address. An IP address is used to identify any device connected to a network. So this is everything about IP address and how it works and everything. Okay, so you can just check this small website that they have given. Okay, these are all small exercises that you can do to understand the concept better. Okay, so we'll answer some questions based on that. So what is the ASN for the third IP address observed here? So to check the IP address, we'll open this. Third IP address is ASN is host Europe GmbH. So that will be our answer for the first one, host Europe GmbH. What is the domain name associated with the first IP address observed? So the first IP address has a domain name craftinglegacy.com. So that will be our answer here. So next task is domain names. Again, there is a lot of information given about domain names and how they work. So you can read through this and how tiny URL and everything, and how an adversary uses the tiny URL website to input malicious code and malicious links. So you can just do this. We'll open this task here. Alright, and basis of this we'll be answering some questions. So go to this report on app.ne.run and provide first malicious URL request you are seeing. You will be using this report to answer the remaining questions of the task. So we have to provide the first malicious URL here. The first malicious URL is craftinglegacy.com. That will be our answer for the first question. What term refers to an address used to access website? The answer is domain name. What type of attack uses Unicode characters in the domain to imitate a known domain? The answer is punny code attack. You will find the answers after reading here. Provide the redirected website for the shortened URL using the preview. So we have to copy this for that. And to check what is the redirected website, what we can do is we have to enter a plus, and yeah, so it's tryhackme.com. So this will be our answer for the fourth one, tryhackme.com. So we'll move on to the task 5 now, which is the host artifacts. So this is all about host artifacts. On this level, the attacker will feel a little more annoyed and frustrated if can detect the attack. So you can read all about the host artifacts here. We'll move on to the questions. What is the suspicious IP the victim machine tried to connect to in the screenshot above? So in this screenshot above, you can check the IP addresses 35.214.215.33. Use the tools introduced in the task 2 and provide the name of the malware associated with the IP address. So once you use that tool, the answer would be emotet. Using your OSINT skills, what is the name of the malicious document associated with the dropped binary? So once you again use the tool, you will find this answer. Use your OSINT skills and provide the name of the malicious document associated with the dropped binary. So the answer is CMO-100.120 CDW-100.220.doc. Again, you will find that answer using the tools that we just discussed. Next is task 6, network artifacts. Network artifacts also belong to the yellow zone in the pyramid of pain. This means if you can detect and respond to the threat, the attacker would need more time to go back and change his tactics or modify the tools, which gives you more time to respond and detect the upcoming threats or remediate the existing ones. So you can read all about that here. We'll move on to the questions. What browser uses the user agent string shown in the screenshot above? The answer is Internet Explorer. How many post requests are in the screenshot from the pcap file? So there are 6, so our answer is 6. So we'll move on to task 7, which is tools. So at this stage we have leveled up our detection capabilities against the artifacts. The attacker would most likely give up trying to break into your network or go back and try to create a new tool that serves the same purpose. Okay, so you can read this. The first question here is, provide the method used to determine similarity between the files. The answer is fuzzy hashing. Provide the alternative name for fuzzy hashes without the abbreviation. The answer is context triggered piecewise hashes. We'll move on to task 8, which is TTPs. Okay, TTP stands for tactics, techniques and procedures. This includes the whole MITRE attack matrix, which means all the steps taken by an adversary to achieve his goal, starting from the phishing attempts to persistence and data exfiltration. So the first question here is, navigate to the attack matrix webpage. How many techniques fall under the exfiltration category? The answer is 9. So once you visit the attack matrix webpage, you will find the answer. Chimera is a Chinese-based hacking group that has been active since 2018. What is the name of the commercial remote access tool they use for C2 beacons and data exfiltration? So the answer for that is Cobalt Strike. Next is the task 9, which is a practical. So we'll just check this practical. So I have read about this practical that it's basically broken. So you can just attempt it basis on the knowledge that you have read here. You can just attempt it, but since it's broken, I'll not spend my time here. So you can just attempt it. Okay, and that brings us to the end of this module, which is the pyramid of pain. Now we will move on to the next one. Alright, so now we'll move on with the third part of this module, which is the cyber kill chain. Okay, so the cyber kill chain framework is designed for identification and prevention of network intrusions. So we are going to learn what the adversaries need to do in order to achieve their goals in this module. So first is the introduction. The term kill chain is a military concept related to the structure of an attack. It consists of target identification, decision and order to attack the target, and finally the target destruction. Thanks to Lockheed Martin, a global security and aerospace company that established the cyber kill chain framework in the year 2011 based on the military concepts. So in this cyber kill chain, there are basically the following phases: reconnaissance, weaponization, delivery, exploitation, installation, command and control, which is C2, and actions on objectives. Okay, so in this entire module we are going to learn about these attack phases. Okay, so in the first task there is no answer needed, so we'll move on to the next task, which is reconnaissance. So reconnaissance is discovering and collecting information on the system and the victim. The reconnaissance phase is the planning phase for the adversaries. Okay, OSINT also falls under reconnaissance. OSINT is the first step an attacker needs to complete to carry out further phases of an attack. Okay, so once you read through this, you'll learn about different methods of OSINT, what are the different tools that we used for OSINT, and OSINT stands for open source intelligence. Okay, so now we'll go ahead with the questions. So the first question is, what is the name of the intel gathering tool that is a web-based interface to the common tools and resources for OSINT? And the answer to that is OSINT framework. Next question is, what is the definition for the email gathering process during the stage of reconnaissance? And that is email harvesting. Okay, so these are the two answers for task 2. We'll move on to the task 3, which is weaponization. So after a successful reconnaissance stage, Megatron would work on creating a weapon of destruction. He would prefer not to interact with the victim directly, and instead he will create a weaponizer that, according to Lockheed Martin, combines malware and exploit into a deliverable payload. So this whole summary is about weaponization and different things that are included in the weaponization process. So the question for this task is, this term is referred to as a group of commands that perform a specific task. You can think of them as subroutines or functions that contain the code that most users use to automate the routine tasks. But malicious actors tend to use them for malicious purposes and include them in Microsoft Office documents. Can you provide the term for it? And the term for it is macro. Okay. So now moving ahead, task 4 is delivery. The delivery phase is when the Megatron decides to choose the method for transmitting the payload for the malware. He has plenty of options to choose from, which would be phishing email, distributing infected USB drives, and watering hole attack. So the question in this task is, what is the name of the attack when it is performed against a specific group of people and the attacker seeks to infect the website that mentioned group of people constantly visiting? And that is a watering hole attack, which you can read it here. This is about watering hole attack. Okay, so I hope you guys are also reading through the entire material properly, visiting each and every links or resources that have been mentioned, because it is very important to understand the concepts. Okay, so now we'll move ahead with task 5, which is exploitation. So to gain an access to the system, an attacker needs to exploit the vulnerability. In this phase, the attacker got a little bit creative. He created 2 phishing emails, one that contains a phishing link to a fake Office 365 login page, and another one containing a macro attachment that would execute ransomware when victim opens it. Okay, so this is all about exploitation, and these are the examples of how an attacker carries out an exploitation. The victim triggers the exploit by opening the email attachment or clicking the malicious link using zero-day exploit software, hardware, or even human vulnerabilities. An attacker triggers the exploit for server-based vulnerability. So the question is, can you provide the name of the cyber attack targeting a software vulnerability that is known to antivirus or software vendors? And that is zero-day. Next is the installation part. So in this, they have given all about installation and what the attacker does after the exploitation part. Okay, so once the attacker gets the access to the system, he would want to reassess the system, and if he loses the connection to it, or if he got detected and got the initial access removed, or if the system is later patched, he will no longer have access to it. This is when the attacker needs to install a persistent backdoor. A persistent backdoor will let the attacker access the system he compromised in the past. Okay, so you can also check the Windows persistence room to learn more about this. Okay, so the first question in task 6 is, can you provide the technique used to modify the file time attributes to hide new or changes to the existing files? And the answer to that is time stomping. Next, can you name the malicious script planted by an attacker on the web server to maintain access to the compromised system and enables the server to be accessed remotely? The answer to that is web shell. Next is command and control. So after getting persistence and executing the malware on victim's machine, the attacker opens up the C2 channel through the malware to remotely control and manipulate the victim. So in this, the question is, what is the C2 communication where the victim makes regular DNS requests to a DNS server and a domain which belongs to an attacker? And that is DNS tunneling. Next is the action on objectives, which is also known as exfiltration. So after going through the 6 phases of attack, the attacker can now finally achieve his goals, which means taking an action on the original objectives. Okay, with hands-on keyboard access, the attacker can achieve the following: collect the credentials from the users, perform privilege escalation, internal reconnaissance, lateral movement, collect and exfiltrate sensitive data, deleting backups, and overwrite or corrupt data. So the question in this task is, can you provide a technology included in the Microsoft Windows that create backup copies or snapshot of files or volumes on the computer even when they are in use? And the answer to that is shadow copy. Next is the task 9, which is the practical analysis, and in this we are going to deploy a static site like we have done in the previous parts of this module. So now we will deploy the static site using the view site button. Okay, so they have given a little exercise for us here, and let's check what we have to do here. So this is the infamous Target cyber attack which led to the largest data breaches that took place on November 27, 2013. Okay, so in this task what we have to do, add each item on the list in the correct kill chain entry on the static lab from the given options. Okay, so once this is done, use the check answers button to verify the answers are correct or not. Alright, so now we will start with this exercise, and here for this exercise basically the first thing that we will do, we'll go it in a chronological order. Okay, so the answer for the first one should be, I think it should be PowerShell. So PowerShell, and then the next one should be spear phishing attachment. Next one should be exploit. Then the next one should be dynamic liner hijacking. After that, this one would be fallback channels. And the last one would be data from local system. Okay, so let's check the answers, and we have got our flag, which is the answer for the second question. So once you paste it here, click on done, and this will conclude our exercise. Okay, so these are the answers, and now we will move to task 10, which is the conclusion part. So in this they have given their final thoughts on what all things that we need to remember and what all things that we need to focus on to get a complete in-depth knowledge of the cyber kill chain. So there is no answer needed, and we will move on to the next one, which is next module, which is the unified kill chain. Alright, so in the unified kill chain is a framework which establishes the phases of an attack and means of identifying and mitigating risk to IT assets. Okay, so in the introduction part they have given the objectives, understanding why frameworks such as UKC are important, using UKC to understand an attacker's motivation, methodologies and tactics, understanding various phases of UKC, discover that UKC is a framework that is used to complement other frameworks such as MITRE. So it's not a competition between the different frameworks, it is supposed to be used as a complement with each other. So let's proceed with this room. Task 2, that is a kill chain. So they have given a definition of what the kill chain is. So where does the question is, where does the term kill chain originate from? So the answer to that is military. Next one, what is threat modeling? Threat modeling in a cybersecurity context is a series of steps to ultimately improve security of a system. Threat modeling is about identifying risk and essentially boils down to the following things which are mentioned here. So now the question is, what is the technical term for a piece of software or a hardware in IT? Answer is asset. Task 4 is introduction to the unified kill chain. To continue from the previous task, the unified kill chain published in 2017 aims to complement with other cyber security kill chain frameworks such as Lockheed Martin's and MITRE's attack. So they have basically given the different parts of the unified kill chain, or the parts that are included in the parts or the phases that are included in the unified kill chain. So you can read through this. We'll go ahead with the questions. In what year was the unified kill chain framework released? Answer is 2017. According to the unified kill chain, how many phases are there to an attack? That is 18. What is the name of the attack phase where an attacker employs techniques to evade detection, that is defense evasion? What is the name of the attack phase where an attacker employs techniques to remove data from a network? The answer is exfiltration. What is the name of the attack phase where an attacker achieves their objectives? The answer is objectives. Moving on to the task 5. Task 5 is phase in, or the initial foothold. The main focus of this series of phases for an attacker is to gain access to a system or a network environment. An attacker will employ numerous tactics to investigate the system for potential vulnerabilities that can be exploited to gain a foothold in the system. For example, a common tactic used of reconnaissance against system to discover potential attack vectors. Okay, so now then they have been given a different parts and phases of the attack. So what is an example of a tactic used to gain a foothold using emails? That is phishing. We already know that. Impersonating an employee to request a password reset is form of what? Answer is social engineering. An adversary setting up command and control over infrastructure is what phase of the unified kill chain? The answer is weaponization. Exploiting a vulnerability present on a system is what phase of a unified kill chain? Exploiting a vulnerability present on a system is what phase of a unified kill chain? Answer is exploitation. Moving on from one system to another is an example of pivoting. Leaving behind a malicious service that allows the adversary to log back into the target is persistence. Moving on to the task 6, which is phase through network propagation. So this phase follows a successful foothold being established on the target. An attacker would seek to gain additional access and privileges to the systems and data to fulfill their goals. The attacker would set up a base on one of the system to act as their pivot point and use it to gather information about the internal network. So again, different phases here. So the first question in this task is, as a SOC analyst, you pick up numerous alerts pointing to failed login attempts from an administrator account. What stage of the kill chain would the attacker be seeking to achieve? The answer is privilege escalation. Mimikatz, a known attack tool, was detected running on the IT manager's computer. What is the mission of this tool? The answer is credential dumping. Task 7. So this phase wraps up the journey of an adversary's attack on an environment where they have critical asset access and can fulfill their attack goals. So the question in this task is, while monitoring the network as a SOC analyst, you realize that there is a spike in the network activity and all the traffic is outbound to an unknown IP address. What stage could describe this activity? The answer is exfiltration. Personally identifiable information PII has been released to the public by an adversary and your organization is facing scrutiny for the breach. What part of the CIA triad would be affected by this action? Confidentiality. So now the task 8 is a practical. So again, we will be deploying this static website. Okay, so there are some questions that we have to answer here. So the attacker uses tools to gather information about a system. What phase of the unified kill chain is this? Answer is reconnaissance. The attacker installs a malicious script to allow them remote access at a later date. What phase of a unified kill chain is this? And the answer to that is persistence. The hacked machine is being controlled from an attacker's own server, and that would be command and control. The attacker uses the hacked machine to access other servers on the same network, and so the answer to that is pivoting, as we have discussed earlier. The attacker steals a database and sells this to a third party. The answer to that is action and objectives. So we have got the flag here. We can copy this and paste it here to complete this practical. Okay, so that brings us to the end of this module. So task 9 is the conclusion part. So they have just again given us a few sources which we can use to further gain knowledge in these frameworks. So with that, now we will move on to the next module, which is the diamond module. Alright, so now we'll start with the diamond model. So diamond model carries the essential concepts of intrusion analysis and adversary operations while allowing the flexibility to expand and encompass new ideas and concepts. So you will read all about diamond model here. So no answer is needed here. So we'll move on to the next task, which is adversary. An adversary is also known as an attacker, enemy, cyber threat actor, or an hacker. So here you will go through everything about who is an adversary. So the first question here is, what is the term for a person group that has an intention to perform malicious actions against cyber resources? The answer is adversary operator. What is the term of the person or group that will receive the benefits from cyber attacks? The answer is adversary customer. Next, task 3 is victim. Victim is the target of the adversary. So here you will read everything about the victim. So the question here is, what is the term that applies to the diamond model for organizations or people that are being targeted? The answer is victim persona. Task 4 is capability. Capability is also known as the skills, tools and techniques used by the adversary in an event. So the question here is, provide the term for the set of tools or capabilities that belong to an adversary. The answer is adversary arsenal. Task 5 is infrastructure. Infrastructure is also known as software or hardware. Infrastructure is the physical or logical interconnections that adversary uses to deliver a capability or maintain control of capabilities. So the question here is, to which type of infrastructure do malicious domains and compromised email accounts belong? Answer is type 2 infrastructure. What type of infrastructure is most likely owned by an adversary? The answer to that is type 1 infrastructure. Task 6. So in this task 6 is all about event meta features. So there are 6 possible meta features that you can read about here. So what meta feature does the axiom every malicious activity contains 2 or more phases which must be successfully executed in succession to achieve the desired result belong to? The answer is phase. You can label the event result as success, failure and unknown. What meta feature is related to this? The answer is result. To what meta feature is the phrase applicable? Every intrusion event requires one or more external resources to be satisfied prior to access. The answer to that is resources. Next is task 7, which is the social political component. The social political component describes the need and intent of adversary, for example, financial gain, gaining acceptance in the hacker community, hacktivism or espionage. No answer needed here. We'll move on to task 8. Task 8 is technology component. Again, no answer needed here. You can read what this is all about and move on to the task 9, which is the practical analysis. So for this, again, we will be deploying the static site, which we will do it now. Alright, so we'll start from here. The attackers gained access using legitimate credentials that were gained as a result of a phishing attack. So the answer to this would be, the attackers gained access using legitimate credentials that were gained as a result of a phishing attack. So this would be a capability. Next, once the attacker gained access to the network, they pivoted to the internal databases and file shares. So that would be methodology. The attacker's steps can be followed using the phases of cyber kill chain. What phases of cyber kill chain model? So that would be Lockheed Martin's cyber kill chain. The attacker stole data from the corporation and sold it on an underground hacking forum. So that would be result. The attacker used a recent malware campaign known as One Trick to ransomware the corporation's server. So that would be resources. The attacker targeted the IT systems of the corporation. So that would be victim. The attack occurred on 23 October at 3:45. So that would be a timeline. And the final question is, the incident response team has determined that a group of notorious underground hackers named APT2166 are responsible for the attack. So that would be an adversary. So we have got the flag. We can copy this and conclude this part of the module. Okay. So once this is done, we'll move on to the final part of this module, which is the MITRE. So first we'll read through what MITRE is all about. For those that are new to the cybersecurity field, you probably never heard of MITRE. Those of us that have been around might only associate MITRE with the CVEs list, which is one of the resources that you will probably check when searching for an exploit for a given vulnerability. Okay, so they have given all about MITRE here. What all we are going to learn in this room has been mentioned here. No answer needed. We will move on directly to the task 2. Okay, so the task 2 is all about the basic terminology. You can read through this. No answer needed here, so we can move to the task 3. Task 3 is about the attack framework. What is the attack framework? According to the website, MITRE ATT&CK is a globally accessible knowledge base of adversary tactics and techniques based on real world observations. So here they have mentioned everything about the attack framework. Go through it carefully, read all the resources properly, and basis of that we are going to answer the questions. So the first question is, beside blue teamers, who else will use the attack matrix? Answer is red teamers. What is the ID for this technique? The ID for the phishing technique is T1566. Based on this technique, what mitigation covers identifying social engineering techniques? The answer is user training. What are the data sources for detection? Application log, file and network traffic is the answer. What groups have used spear phishing in their campaigns? The answer is Axiom and Gold Southfield. Based on the information for the first group, what are the associated groups? The answer is group 72. What software is associated with this group that lists phishing as a technique? The answer is HiKit. What is the description for this software? So you will find HiKit's description above. You can just type it here and click on done. This group overlaps which other group? The answer is Venti group. How many techniques are attributed to this group? The answer is 15. Next is task 4, which is about the CAR, which is known as Cyber Analytics Repository. You can read everything about it here, and then we will move on to the questions. So for the above analytic, what is the pseudocode a representation of? So here the pseudocode is a representation of a Splunk search. What tactic has an ID of TA0003? The answer is persistence. What is the name of the library that is a collection of Zeek scripts? The answer is Bizarre. What is the name of technique for running executables with same hash and different names? The answer is masquerading. Examine the following CAR beside implementations. What additional information is provided to the analyst to ensure coverage of this technique? The answer is unit tests. Task 5 is all about the MITRE Engage. So MITRE Engage is a framework for planning and discussing adversary engagement operations that empowers you to engage your adversaries and achieve your cybersecurity goals. So you can read everything about that here. Under prepare, what is the ID SAC 0002? Answer is persona creation. What is the name of the source to aid you with engagement activity from the previous question? The answer is persona profile worksheet. Which engagement activity baits a specific response from the adversary? Answer is lures. What is the definition of a threat model? A threat model is a risk assessment that models organizational strengths and weaknesses. Moving on, next task is the MITRE Defend. So they have Defend stands for Detection, Denial, Disruption Framework, Empowering Network Defense. So you can read all about it here. What is the first MITRE attack technique listed in the attack lookup drop down? So once you look that up, the answer would be data obfuscation. In Defend Inferred Relationships, what does the attack technique from the previous question produces? The answer is outbound internet network traffic. Task 7 is the attack emulation plans. You can read all about that here. So the question is, in phase 1 for the APT3 emulation plan, what is listed first? Answer is C2 setup. Under persistence, what binary was replaced with cmd.exe? The answer is setc.exe. Examining APT29, what C2 frameworks are listed in the scenario 1 infrastructure? The answer is Puppy and Metasploit framework. What C2 framework is listed in scenario 2 infrastructure? The answer is POSH C2. Examine the emulation plan for Sandworm. What web shell is used for scenario 1? So for that answer is PAS, S0598. Next is the attack threat and attack and threat intelligence. So threat intelligence or cyber threat intelligence is the information or TTBs attributed to the adversary. You can read all about it here. What is the group that targets your sector who has been in operation since at least 2013? The answer to that is APT 33. As your organization is migrating to the cloud, is there anything attributed to this APT group that you should focus on? If so, what is it? The answer is cloud accounts. What tool is associated with the technique from the previous question? The answer is ruler. Per the detection tip, what should you be detecting? The answer is abnormal or malicious behavior. What platforms does the technique from question 2 affect? The answer is Azure AD, Google Workspace, Office 365, SaaS, IaaS. So with that, we have reached the conclusion of this room. So in this room, we explored tools, resources that MITRE has provided to the security community. The room's goal was to expose you to these resources and give you a foundational knowledge of their uses. Okay. So as mentioned before, though this is not only for defenders, as red teamers, these tools, resources are useful as well. Your objective is to mimic the adversary and attempt to bypass all the controls in place within the environment. With these resources, as a red teamer, you can effectively mimic a true adversary and communicate your findings in the common language that both sides can understand. In a nutshell, this is known as purple teaming. Alright, so I hope you enjoyed this video and this walkthrough. If you got any suggestions, please comment them down in the comment box below, and do like, share and subscribe to the channel for more such informative videos. So thanks again for your time. We'll see you in the next video.